Hi there, so this video is on the subject of healing the fragmentation of consciousness. And I'm going to be describing to the best of my ability a very sort of convoluted and a little bit complicating concept as best as I can. And it is about the fragmentation of consciousness within the universe. Now, in the beginning, then God was one unified entity, and now I'm just speaking here based on a combination of various spiritual reading and assorted personal experiences of mine in the course of meditation and through the use of various psychedelics and whatnot, of having explored consciousness. So in the beginning, then, God was all consciousness within the universe was unified in one being, and God decided that he/she wanted to have an experience of separation for the contrast in order to understand what that was to not be unified, for the sake of learning and growth and evolution and self-knowledge. And so God basically created an experience of separation in which essentially the masculine and feminine elements of God were separated, and that propelled a whole series of events of further separation and fragmentation of consciousness. So the underlying basic main parts of God, as I understand it, that there are four main parts of God, and that is the spirit, which is the light, the upper chakra mental light of consciousness, the will, which is the feminine emotional aspects of consciousness, feelings, the heart, which is the connecting point between masculine and feminine, and that wasn't created until sometime afterwards, as the masculine and feminine started to come back together, and that coming back together of masculine and feminine created the heart. And then the fourth aspect is the body, which is what contains everything. So those are kind of the four basic aspects of God, and you could also equate that to mental, spiritual, physical, and emotional, those aspects of ourselves. So, but beyond those four main parts, then God began fragmenting into many different individual spirits, and all of us, all human beings, all consciousness everywhere around the not just the planet but the universe was part of this unified God at one point, and has since fragmented into an individual spirit having its individual experience. So an extremely important thing to understand, and I'll just mention here that I'm speaking in terms based on the Right Use of Will series of books, which are a very powerful series of spiritual books, 8 different books, which I've read through several times, and that I resonate with very much. I am not a fundamentalist on that. I have read all kinds of spiritual books that are very amazing. There's so many great spiritual teachers out there at this time, and so I don't subscribe to any one spiritual teaching. I like to gather a wide spectrum of teachings and personal experiences to draw from, so that ultimately I'm creating a truth and a perspective that is based on my own inner realization and understanding, as opposed to reciting from rote, somebody else's explanation of, the universe and truth and consciousness and all this stuff. But so a very important thing to understand is that the will, or the emotional feeling body, is the magnetic energy of the universe. And the magnetic energy is what holds things together. The denial of the feminine goes along with perpetuating this separation, because without the feminine magnetic emotional energy present, then these fragmented aspects of consciousness can't be held together. And so there are spirits within this consciousness that do not want to see this fragmentation healed, for consciousness to come back together, because they are frozen in the original fear that occurred as a result of this separation. This initial separation was a very painful, scary experience, and all of us are embedded to some extent with the fear of that experience. And many of us are being motivated by a primal underlying fear from that initial experience that we have not yet resolved. And those who are especially disconnected from this fear, from their feelings in general, don't want to go back into oneness, but want to continue flying off into separation. And so those aspects of consciousness are particularly interested in denying the feminine, because they don't want to feel, they don't want to experience this fear, and they don't want to see things come back together, because that would reunite them with this experience that they have separated from. So I don't know how much this is making sense for people who haven't read these books or don't have some kind of a similar understanding, but hopefully I'm sort of getting something useful across here. So this goes along with the denial of the feminine. The denial of the feminine is about not wanting to feel, because feelings in general, any sorts of feelings, also connects with the totality of feeling, including connecting with this underlying fear that we all have. I just did a video recently on the concept of facing fear, and facing fear and in fact connecting with fear is a very important aspect of spiritual growth and self-evolution and wholeness, if it means reconnecting with denied fear within that you're then bringing forth in order to resolve that fear. There's a difference between creating new experiences of fear that are probably just going to be denied and create further separation and imbalance, as opposed to bringing up denied, repressed fear, bringing it through your conscious awareness in order to resolve it and in order to connect with and reunite with that denied aspect of yourself. And so this is a extremely crucial aspect of true healing, in my view, is the contacting of denied aspects of oneself in order to bring them back into the conscious awareness of your being, and thus heal this fragmentation. So just imagine, imagine something, whatever, imagine a vase, and someone taking a hammer to it and smashing it, and it flying off in various fragmented individual little pieces. And so that is kind of what happened to consciousness, was this initial experience that caused this separation. And what needs to happen now is all these different scattered little pieces of God, of consciousness, need to be glued back together. Ultimately over time. Obviously this is going to be a long process. So the magnetic feminine emotional energy could be likened to the glue that is going to put this, this fragmented, separated thing back together into one piece. And so there are, imagine if you did this, if you shattered a vase with a hammer, there would be larger pieces and smaller pieces and tiny little dust particles and all this. And these are all, different aspects of consciousness, from the big to the small. There's the larger, God, as we see God, could be a especially big piece of the vase that stayed intact, and then there are, you know, smaller pieces coming down from that, and so all of us are some aspect of this original being that got, you know, shattered and scattered into a million, billion, trillions of little pieces. So it is a very important element of the healing process and the process of coming back into wholeness and oneness and unity, to seek out and contact and reunify with various fragmented aspects of ourselves and bring them into our conscious awareness. Now, so this is the importance of the coming into acceptance of emotional energy and of the feminine, is the fact that you can't hold yourself together. You can't, you know, contact these various aspects of your being that have been denied and bring them back into your conscious awareness and actually, you know, make all of that fragmented consciousness stick back together without the magnetic feminine energy to help hold it together. So this is one of the important elements of connecting with feeling and one's emotions, is in order to strengthen and rebuild the emotional body, in order to have feminine emotional presence within you, so that you can hold together these various fragmented aspects of your being. So there are, of course, you know, a myriad of different ways in order to do this, but one of the most important is simply that of being aware of one's feelings and emotions and seeking to bring them into acceptance as opposed to denying them. When feelings and emotions come up, whether it's fear, anger, sadness, guilt, doubt, desire, whatever, to honor those emotions as part of your consciousness, part of your being, that needs to be integrated into yourself. So we've all had our various experiences of being really pissed off, you know, feeling emotionally imbalanced, feeling overwhelmed by various feelings and sensations, and it is very important when you're in this sort of a state to not seek to deny and repress, to not seek to distract yourself from these feelings, push them away, and treat them as, you know, not of God, not divine, not part of yourself, but instead find ways to integrate these feelings into yourself, because it's all, you know, whatever you're feeling and experiencing within yourself is some aspect of your being. Although in some ways we have taken in pieces of other people. You know, you have energy exchanges with people when you have deep experiences with them. So we also have parts of other beings embedded in ourselves that we need to release back to them, and release out of ourselves. So it's kind of it can be a tricky process for sure, of identifying, you know, what do I need to connect with and reintegrate into myself, and what is within myself that I need to release and let go of, and what is also just energy blockages that isn't energy potential that needs to be you know, pushed out and released from my being. So hopefully this is just giving a general sense or understanding of, you know, working with energy, working with feelings and emotions and consciousness, and coming to the greater awareness of the fact that there is much within us that is denied and unconscious, buried deep within our subconscious, and simply seeking to discover these denied parts of ourselves in order to bring them back into our conscious awareness, and thus heal ourselves and bring ourselves into a more whole state of being. So there's lots of other videos on my channel that are in this vein of connecting with denied parts of your being, and connecting with these deeper aspects of ourselves, and with potent potentialities of energy within us, and reintegrating them into ourselves. So feel free to check out my main channel page for the various playlists that are on there, and hopefully you'll find a few other videos that might answer any further questions. So have a great day. Take care. Namaste.